Hey guys, how you doing? Captain Toonlin reporting for duty once again. In 1989, an animator named Nick Park from a British claymation studio called Aardman brought two characters named Wallace and Gromit to life with the duo's first outing, A Grand Day Out. And it was a major hit for the studio. They then followed it up with a few more shorts featuring the cheese-loving inventor and his silent dog. The Wrong Trousers in 1993, A Close Shave in 1995, and A Matter of Loaf and Death in 2008, all of which have received an equal amount of praise from critics, and both The Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave won an Academy Award, or Oscar, for Best Animated Short, plus the latter inspired a spin-off series with Shaun the Sheep. It wasn't until 2005, however, that Aardman brought Wallace and Gromit to the big screen in feature length for the first time, with some help from DreamWorks Animation over in America, in order to create The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which was once again beloved by critics and audiences and won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. Then in 2024, or 2025 if you're outside of the UK, several years after their last major screen adventure, Aardman came out with not just another Wallace and Gromit film, but also the duo's first feature-length movie since The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which first aired on the BBC and then released on Netflix worldwide. Unlike The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which is a completely original story, this one is actually a follow-up to one of the shorts they made during the early days of Wallace and Gromit, specifically The Wrong Trousers. This is Wallace and Gromit.
Vengeance! Most foul!
What can I say about Wallace and Gromit? I've always been a big fan of this franchise. Not only are these two characters my favorite creation by Aardman, but I would even say that while my favorite shorts of the duo are a tie between The Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave, my favorite installment to feature them overall would have to be The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Everything about that movie is absolute perfection, and if you haven't seen it yet, I implore you to do so. But the 2020 so far has been a cool decade for Aardman to revisit some of their older works for new adventures, including the second Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, which was really good, and a third one, The Beast of Mossy Bottom, is on the way, and a sequel to Chicken Run called Dawn of the Nugget, which wasn't as great as the original with a similar story to it, but it was still a decent sequel in my opinion, despite Zachary Levi. And when it was announced that there would be not only another major Wallace and Gromit project after all these years, but also another feature film, I was pretty excited to see their return, especially with Nick Park back to be one of the directors with Merlin Crossingham. And how is that grand return? Is it another cracking picture that's as delicious as cheese, or will I have to unleash my vengeance on it?
Let's go!
On 62 West Wallaby Street in Wigan, Lancashire, Wallace has invented a robotic garden gnome called Norbot and starts a gnome-based garden and maintenance service for people in the neighborhood, much to Gromit feeling like his job to help Wallace has been made obsolete. Meanwhile, Feathers McGraw, having been in his zoo prison for a while after his plot to steal the Blue Diamond was foiled by the duo, hears about Norbot on the news and devises a revenge plot by hacking into and reprogramming him while he's charging through a computer at night to serve McGraw and mass-produce an army of gnomes that steal various objects while doing their work around town, resulting in Wallace to be accused of this crime by the town and have his inventions confiscated. The duo soon finds out that the one behind all this is Feathers McGraw, who did it so he could try to steal the Blue Diamond again and exact his revenge on them. Considering that this is a sequel to The Wrong Trousers, there can be some things in the story that are similar to the plot elements of that short, including Gromit feeling like his attention to Wallace is being taken by the newcomer to their house, and Feathers taking control of Wallace's invention to use it to his evil advantage. But even with all that, this doesn't feel like it's just copying what was previously done before. It still has plenty of original elements that help it try to be its own thing, and they did a great job with this, whether it's trying to show what happened to Feathers McGraw after The Wrong Trousers, the inclusion of the new robot gnome, or the new subplot with the police. Not to mention that the callbacks to The Wrong Trousers are still a lot of fun instead of feeling like they're being shoved in your face to the point of feeling distracting, and it has a lot of the humor and the highly inventive scenarios you would expect from Wallace and Gromit, such as how Wallace's wake-up inventions have gone all out in terms of the craziness, as well as in the climax with the boot launching machine. I can see how the people at Aardman were having a really great time bringing these to life. Like, they know how endless the possibilities can be when it comes to the world of Wallace and Gromit. But what truly makes this film unique for me in comparison to other Wallace and Gromit media is its messages and themes regarding technology and the dangers that come with it if you use it too much. Considering how AI has been increasingly dominating the world in some of the most horrific ways you can imagine, including being implemented in movies and TV shows by the morally corrupt, money-grubbing media conglomerates of today's industry, in which I hope these practices crash and burn very soon, this movie really came out at the absolute perfect time, and does a really great job making fun of the worst aspects of technology, explaining why it isn't fully capable of doing whatever us humans can do very well accurately, with Gromit feeling frustrated with his job being made obsolete by Norbot, including when his garden that he tried to make perfect got ruined with the invention of Norbot, until the moment that all the gnomes have turned evil. This is one of the best movies to make fun of the dangers of AI that I've seen, next to The Mitchells vs. the Machines, another animated film on Netflix. And speaking of the best, the climax is so incredibly fun to watch that it may very well be one of the best climactic moments for any Wallace and Gromit production, especially in the League of the Curse of the Were-Rabbit. With its great humor, engaging narrative, fun throwbacks to The Wrong Trousers that feel like a faithful continuation, and powerful commentary against the dangers of tech, the story goes to show that Wallace and Gromit can be just as inventive as they were before.
And action!
On top of the highly engaging story, the characters are back and just as lovable as they've ever been since we first saw them back in 1989. Some of them are returning favorites, and then there are also some new additions thrown in that are also very memorable. Starting off with Wallace and Gromit themselves, they're still the same charming inventor and dog duo we've known for years with their personalities and relationship. While Gromit is completely silent where he literally has no mouth, nor can he even make the noises of an actual dog, he still really shows a lot of personality and emotion with his actions. Plus, he really does carry the movie like he usually does with his intelligent nature, and the development he gets here with his disapproval of Norbot prior to the reprogramming of the smart gnomes, and how he tries to solve the mystery of the perpetrator of it all. And for Wallace, I should also add more information about his voice. Ben Whitehead has been voicing Wallace since 2008, beginning in some UK television commercials as well as the video game Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventures, and has been the permanent voice of him since Peter Sallis's retirement after 2010 and eventual passing in 2017. When I first heard Whitehead's voice as Wallace in those, I could easily tell that this was not Peter Sallis, but looking at recent commercials and this movie, his voice really evolved to sound a lot like Sallis to the point that I barely notice a difference anymore. I gotta say that Whitehead has become a really good Peter Sallis impersonator, and there really couldn't have been a better successor to voice Wallace than him, as he very much replicates Wallace's memorable Yorkshire accent and eccentric yet cheerful personality as an inventor, as well as demonstrating his willingness to prove to the town that he's innocent regarding the rogue's smart gnomes. Another familiar face we get to see again is Macintosh, the police officer turned chief inspector who you may remember from The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. In this one, he's the one that plans to retire after years of having been the town's constable and wants his last days on duty to be perfect, and yet, just like in Were-Rabbit, he's still the same no-nonsense constable. Alongside him is one of the new characters, Mukherjee, who is the genius of the case with the rogue smart gnomes and the one who strives to make sure that she follows in Macintosh's footsteps. On top of their chemistry being really good, these two gave me a lot of great entertainment whenever they would show up, similarly to other side duos who either have a subplot of their own or are also a duo of master and apprentice.
And I've saved the best for last, the moment you've all been waiting for, the villain of this movie. And like I said, he's another familiar face we've seen before. Say it with me, Feathers McGraw.
The main antagonist of one of the original featurettes, The Wrong Trousers, Feathers is the diabolical penguin who had an elaborate chicken disguise, which is just a red glove on his head, and plotted to steal the blue diamond, even if it meant using Wallace and his invention of robotic remote-controlled trousers while Wallace was sleepwalking. In the end, he ended up getting foiled by Wallace and Gromit. Out of all the Wallace and Gromit villains, Feathers McGraw has always stood out to me the most, and like many other people, I consider him to be my favorite one. And his second round is no exception. He's just as unnerving and menacing as he was before. In Vengeance Most Fowl, his goal is to exact revenge on Wallace and Gromit, and he comes up with that revenge while still in his zoo prison, with his first plan to hack into Wallace's Norbot and reprogram him to do criminal acts across town upon hearing about him on the news, which leads to Wallace being accused of this. He might not really show any facial expressions or emotions, but whenever this penguin is in the picture, you once again really feel his sinister nature and his motivation despite his facial limitations, that there's something about him you're literally not gonna like. Not to mention some comedic scenes he can get, such as him shutting up that one smart gnome playing the bagpipe in Ranks. No matter if they're familiar or new to the Wallace and Gromit universe, these characters are so lovable and entertaining as they've always been, that they'll make the audience hungry for crackers and cheese like Wallace himself. If there's one thing Aardman is best known for, it's their unique brand of stop-motion animation and their claymation style, where all the characters are made out of clay, their movements are carefully manipulated with the well-built models, and their eyeballs are usually made out of plastic marbles with painted irises. Like, there's just something about stop motion that really feels special and lovely to me, and Aardman's claymation is a prime example. And on top of continuing that tradition, the animation in Vengeance Most Fowl is very top-notch. The reason Aardman's and Wallace and Gromit's animation works so well in the first place is how they embrace their work with what stop motion can do. There's some incredible cinematography with the freedom to move around and set up a wide range of shots. The settings and backgrounds are highly immersive and lively with a giant scale, and how they display a normal town in northern England and the zoo prison that Feathers is in, among other places. And they even implement some computer animated effects such as water, milk, smoke, electricity, and fire, which is also a nice touch considering that some of these things, including water, are possibly the hardest thing to animate in stop motion, in the same way that human hair is one of the hardest things to get right in computer animation itself.
And of course, it isn't an Aardman film or a Wallace and Gromit project without Nick Park's iconic designs and some excellent character animation, whether it's Wallace and Gromit themselves with Wallace's mouth movements and the many ways Gromit shows his emotions in body language even with no speech or mouth at all, or the smart gnomes, plus the way the fingerprints are left behind on the clay models really gives it that handmade feel. Aardman did a fantastic job with a lot of their hard work here, and they really succeeded in pushing the limits of stop motion, where everything works seamlessly together on screen. And that also applies to the action scenes, where Wallace's wake-up contraption really has the craziness amped up, and the chase scenes where the duo try to catch Feathers McGraw lead up to that awesome climax. If you're looking for some top quality stop motion animation in any project, look no further than Aardman's signature claymation, especially in movies like this to show off the largest amount of the studio's craftsmanship, because it's animation like this that can be just as inventive as Wallace's inventions themselves. Wallace and Gromit are back and almost better than ever. Well, I mean, whether The Curse of the Were-Rabbit or this one is the better Wallace and Gromit feature is up to you. I personally still consider Were-Rabbit to be my favorite of the two, and my favorite thing from Wallace and Gromit, mainly because of how slightly more cinematic it feels. But either way, I don't really think that matters, because I find that Wallace and Gromit's Vengeance Most Fowl is just about as amazing as Were-Rabbit. It manages to keep everything that was great about Wallace and Gromit while updating it to keep it fresh with a very well written and engaging story, excellent comedy, a powerful message against the dangerous side of technology, lovable and memorable characters both old and new, and the greatly constructed stop motion animation you'd expect from Aardman. Whether you're an animation fan, a stop motion fan, an Aardman fan, a Wallace and Gromit fan, a fan of The Wrong Trousers, or even a newcomer to the franchise, this is an absolute must-watch. Even if you have minimal knowledge of Wallace and Gromit, I still recommend this as a good introduction to the absent-minded, cheese-loving inventor and his dog. It would help to have watched The Wrong Trousers first in some cases, but either way, it's absolutely worth your time. With this movie, Wallace and Gromit have succeeded in showing that they can be among the biggest icons of stop motion and animation in general. So much so that this gets 9.5 out of 10 cannonballs with the new Captain Toonlin stamp of approval. Just like the duo's previous adventures, it's a movie that I look forward to seeing again at some point in time. And now with Vengeance Most Fowl done, it's time for me to spin for my next review on the Wheel of Animation. Before we start spinning the wheel, if you would like to send me some requests for the Wheel of Animation, you can either pledge to my Patreon at patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen, or post your requests in the comments of the Captain Toonlin Reviews /Caleb Reviews subreddit at reddit.com/r/Caleb Reviews. Alright, let's spin that wheel. Wheel of Animation, spin, spin, spin. Tell us the next review that I might win. And the next review is... Coco. Alright. This is a Pixar film that came out in 2017, and I really can't wait to get into this one. So, next time on Captain Toonlin Reviews, join me as I'm going to be covering the 2017 Pixar Animation Studios film, Coco. This is Captain Toonlin signing out.